Okay, everybody. I just put up this video on YouTube of this aviation museum I went to because I absolutely love these old World War II airplanes, and I spent some time editing it and everything. Everything was great, and I go to export, and it kept giving me these render failed errors, various and sundry errors and stuff like that. So if you are editing video and you have a tight deadline, and maybe this is your job or something like that, and you have to get that video out on time, you cannot afford to deal with that kind of stuff. Okay, you have got to, you've got to be able to export your video on time. And so I'm going to show you. I did a lot of research, and I'll show you the thing that ended up working for me. Then I'll show you other things that have worked for other people. All right. So the number one thing, and this doesn't make any sense at all, but the error doesn't make any sense because it's just a glitch in the software. But I know this sounds stupid, but this is what actually worked, was create a new sequence. Okay. Now you can go ahead and fudge with everything, make it exactly the way you want. I just go ahead and create a new sequence, and then I drag in one of my video clips that I know are in the project, drag it onto the timeline. And when you do that, it'll ask you to change the sequence settings to match the video. Okay. Of course, this is in picture profile 8, so that's why it looks all muddy like that, because the lumetri color has not been applied yet. All right, we'll go to our original sequence, stretch up the timeline so you can see everything. Control A, Control C to copy, and then just put it into the new sequence. Control V to paste. I'm not going to do it because I'm running off of a really slow hard drive right now. It's a nightmare. Okay, and that was really all that it took. Was I just copied it into a new sequence. I know that sounds stupid, but it actually worked. And I spent all night trying to get this thing to export. I did every trick in the book. Nothing would work. The other thing that has worked for other people is if you go to the project settings under General. Now we're in the 2023 version of Premiere at this point. All right. And then if you change the renderer from the GPU enabled to just software only. Of course, it takes a lot longer. It's very painfully slow. That has worked for some people. Of course, rebooting your system, that's another thing you can do. Just reboot the entire computer and stuff. The other final thing is if you go into Edit under Preferences. All right. And then if we go to Media Cache, you can delete your media cache because sometimes the media files under the media cache can become corrupted. All right. So those are the tactics, the main tactics that I've heard of. If you export to Adobe Media Encoder, you'll see a drop down at the bottom that tells you to switch to the software encoder. So you can do it from there too, if you're having issues with that. But those were the final things. And then finally, even after all that, even if it finally worked, then this shot here of these Jeeps. So if I go in here, you'll see that there's a little transition. For one thing, there was something about this shot, and there's nothing special about this shot specifically. It's shot with the exact same camera and lenses, the exact same bit rate, the exact same file size, pixel size, color space. Everything is exactly the same. For whatever reason, this shot ended up looking extremely strange. Like when I finally did get it to render completely, this shot was flashing and stuff like that. And what I did was I just removed this transition. I don't know what it was still to this day. There's just some weird glitch. There's some combination of colors and pixels and stuff that just threw Adobe Premiere off. If you go and get an error message, it should tell you, it should say, hey, you've got a render error at this point in time in the video. That is not always indicative of what is actually causing the problem. So it might say there is a problem with, for example, if you go to the effects controls, the lumetri color. A lot of times they'll say the lumetri color effect. But if you shoot any kind of picture profile, S-log or something like that, if you're a video person, you know what that means. Any one of those color profiles to flatten out the image, if you don't have the lumetri color, then that's what the footage looks like. So you've got to have that, so, maybe you can make an adjustment layer or something like that. But that's finally what worked. So again, let's run through it again. create a new sequence, select everything, copy and paste it into the new sequence. That's one trick. The other trick is to, when you go to your project settings, to switch over to the software renderer. And then the other trick is to go to preferences and go to media cache and delete your media cache. Or sometimes maybe change to a different media folder to store the cache, because there could be, sometimes one of the folders could get locked by Windows or something like that. So those are my experiences, and I hope that if you do run into this, which I hope never happens to you, that that one of these tricks works for you. Okay, good luck.